dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
All right. So yeah, the episode Uno was a success. I guess it kind of seemed that way. Some could say, I guess. Yeah, man, if you're tuning in again for time number 2, welcome to the very first episode 2 of Slim and the Vulture, man. Thanks for coming back or coming at all.
Thanks for
Thanks.
Thanks for being a friend.
Dude, how's the rest of that song go? Isn't it? I don't know. It's like, dude, I'm gonna say what I think the lyrics are.
Hit me.
Dude, I'm pretty sure it's "Thank you for being a friend."
Okay, first of all, if you're gonna deliver it, don't say it. Sing it.
Dude, no.
First of all, I just want to. First of all, just want to thank you, showing up, showing out, okay, having my back. I just want to let you know that it doesn't go unnoticed. I don't know, man. If this is the way we're starting out, I can only imagine what
We're killing it, dude. We're killing it.
what hour 1 is going to look like.
So yeah, man, I upgraded a little bit, so I'm wearing headphones. I kind of look like an astronaut over here on this end. I got this little microphone. It was the most reviewed or highest reviewed kind of budget mic on the Amazon. Got that same day delivery, Amazon Prime. What up? But seems pretty legit. Like I said, we talked about it before, but I feel like I'm not like yelling at you. Felt like last time I was sitting over here just like, yeah, no, definitely. That's for sure what my opinion is about that too. So I feel like this is better.
Well, honestly, I didn't even notice. If I noticed anything, I think it was the amount of screen time that I ate up by just trying to gather words and tell stupid, asinine stories about whatever it was we were talking about. But no, it's a nice setup, man. I was saying before we got on, that was a nice little setup you got there. I got some headphones that I'm eventually gonna throw on. I'm sure. Do have to order a mic and all that stuff, but for right now, mine seems to work all right. I know you said you were trying to hear me a little bit better, so it makes sense. But yeah, as we move along, only being episode 2, slowly but surely going to get there, like the pros, that professional equipment, setup, cameras, all that stuff. We are still working on not just making this a YouTube channel, essentially getting this out to actual platforms for podcasting. You know,
Yep.
Not everybody wants to sit in front of a video. We understand that. We get that. So we're trying to make that happen. More than likely, it'll be by next episode. So the 3rd, you'll be able to get on Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify. Pretty much like the main ones where people would otherwise get where y'all would get your podcasts, as well as still doing this, still going to keep the YouTube video up. I think it's cool. I know that I appreciate being able to listen, but sometimes if I do have the time, I like to throw it on, whether it's watching Fighter and the Kid or Congratulations or, Stone Cold.
Yeah, man.
How about that interview? Speaking of the rattlesnake.
Yeah, man. I kind of hopped into it, dude, and I knew it was gonna be really good. First of all, the amount of times that the Hulkster said "brother."
Oh, let the people know that. What was the deal with that episode of Stone Cold's podcast?
Oh yeah, for sure. So if you don't know, Stone Cold Steve Austin, who is my childhood as well as adulthood hero in life, I try to model every single decision I make off of the Texas rattlesnake and what he would do, for sure. But no, anyway, he's got a podcast. I guess it's been running for a little bit now, and he's kind of had some of the bigger names in wrestling kind of in and out and stuff like that. But yeah, he had the Hulkster on. They sat down. Funny enough, I don't know what it's called, but it's some cider drink. It's kind of like a White Claw, but I guess it's a little fancier than that. Stone Cold's putting those back for 2 hours. Kind of started the episode saying that's what he was going to do. And then every like 15 minutes, you hear him, that distinctive like of a can. And the first couple times you're like, oh, dude, yeah, Stone Cold, man. He's probably putting back Budweiser or something. And then you kind of backtrack in your head. It's not what he's drinking. So he's getting up there in age. But no, man, I guess he was down in Florida for that Raw reunion thing we talked about in the last episode.
Right.
And I guess he kind of swindled the WWE to pay for him to go there a couple days early and meet up with Hulk Hogan. And they just kind of talked about everything, I guess, kind of the glory days. They talked about your boy, Ultimate Warrior. He got a lot of love for like an hour. Ric Flair. I mean, it was a very, very good episode. And Hogan ended every sentence with brother, and that made me really happy.
Oh, absolutely. I know we were talking a little bit earlier this week about finding his Instagram and getting on there and just going through a couple of those and those pictures and just the descriptions. It's like you can't read it without. I mean, that goes for a couple people I know, but especially Hogan. Like that, you read something, you're hearing it, and so if the brother isn't there, I was putting it there anyway. So like, it really didn't matter.
You know what's funny is we actually were talking about that, and then this morning I finished up because I had like, I don't know, probably 15 minutes left of that episode.
Yeah.
And I finished that up this morning, and at the end of it, Stone Cold, asked him like, hey, put out your social media, how people can get a hold of you and how people can find you and stuff like that. And Hogan didn't even know what he was on. Like, he was like, my people set it up. I don't really know what it's called, brother. It's not Twitter. And then Stone Cold was like, oh, is it Instagram? And I was just thinking, like, here's this guy that I used to think could just genuinely beat up anybody, on the planet. Like, you would compare that, like, that was, yeah, first of all, my dad's the toughest guy ever. Oh, yeah? Because could he beat up Stone Cold Steve Austin? And here he is, like, I think you're speaking about Instagram as the social media platform that you're on. And it's just super funny to just hear, like, these dudes are super just old now and kind of moved on. But I don't know. It's just weird. It's hard.
You mentioned listening to like the last 15 minutes or whatever. That's about what I got in on the podcast. I had some stuff I had to take care of yesterday, so I was only able to listen to it the first 15, 20 minutes. But it was, from what I heard, I mean, they're kind of going in on, like you said, the glory days, old school days, what they went through, what's different compared to now. So it was cool. I love hearing stuff like that. I love like the old school wrestlers and like what we talked about last week, like skaters that we came up with. Like I love all that stuff. So like all these dudes coming out with like new podcasts or like, YouTube channels or all these different avenues to be able to like, you don't have to wait for like the special features on a DVD or video cassette or whatever the case might have been. Like I was stoked when I bought, what was it? Sting Unmasked, which I thought was funny because Sting never wore a mask.
Sting unpainted.
Yes, Sting. I guess it doesn't have the same ring, but it was sick. It was like all about his life in wrestling. I thought that was the coolest thing. And then obviously like all these DVDs started coming out, stuff like, because that was on VHS.
Yeah.
But all these DVDs with like the special features and then this and that and the tell-alls and the interviews. I think it's just really cool how like now you can just get on any one of these guys' podcasts and just, they have everybody that you could give a shit about, from back in the day to, maybe just a couple of years ago, which is when I kind of stopped following for the most part. Even though we still have people like Shawn Michaels and Undertaker coming in every once in a while, like it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, showing up. Dude, what's funny? In that episode, they're talking a lot. Hogan was talking a lot about kind of the early days of WWF and stuff, and about him and Vince and how they kind of were really the only two in the beginning. They were in the office all the time. Vince Jr. obviously were in the office all the time, and just kind of how they were friends and everything. And it got me thinking, as a kid, there's always the argument of obviously realism to not being real and stuff like that. But as a kid, I genuinely thought Vince McMahon was a bad person just because that was at the height of like the Stone Cold Vince kind of rivalry thing. And
absolutely.
I just remember up until like early adulthood before I was like, oh wait, that was Vince guy. That was just a thing. He's not really he's not really that bad of a person, but I for the longest time was just like, no, not Vince. No, no. He's not nice to Stone Cold, so he's not okay in my book.
What's crazy is, and we're not just going to make this like a whole entire episode of wrestling for those of you that could give shit less about wrestling. But I'll say this: at that time that you're speaking about, where Vince was like this horrible, horrible person, and painted as like this bad, just corporate asshole. I was into it. I was into WWF. I was still watching, or WWE as it's known today. But WCW, man, that was my shit.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I started going more WCW at the time. For one, obviously, when the Warrior came back, it was through WCW. So I was all about that. But I just think, I don't know, at the time well, it's all chronicled in the Monday Night Wars for those of you that are into wrestling. Well, everybody already knows that, and those of you that don't, they probably don't give a shit, so it really doesn't matter. But I just think they had, I don't know, better storylines maybe, and maybe not even storylines. More of my favorite wrestlers were going over to WCW, and it's just with the NWO, Warrior, with Goldberg coming in and just cleaning house. It was just insane. My parents were ordering like every pay-per-view. I would have friends come over. At the end of it, we would all just rumble in the front yard or in the living room. It was just the best time. It was the craziest time. But I felt that. The reason I bring that up is I felt that way about Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
Those two, for me, were like the worst type of person. But for some reason, I think Bischoff had the edge, probably because of his face. He's got that very like punchy face.
Yep. Yeah.
And he just had hair like an asshole, and he just like wore jeans and a fucking leather jacket. And like at the time, I was like, jeans and a leather jacket, Ramones, fucking, Metallica in the 80s, into the 90s. Like that was cool. And then there's this ass hat.
Just ruining it, dude.
His last name was Bischoff. I can't say that, actually. One of my really good friends' last name is Bischoff, so I probably shouldn't talk shit.
Dude, so I know you said you don't want to make this obviously a wrestling episode, but one last really funny kind of wrestling thing. I don't know, it's kind of one of those memories that you have as a kid where you only kind of vaguely remember it, but it happened, but you just only remember kind of bits and pieces. My dad took me, and it might have been some local promotion, but it could have also just as well have been some sort of WWE or something like that event. I remember, because obviously my mom just has a head of super curly hair. I remember there was a dude in the ring just getting the brakes beat off of him, dude. But he had curly hair. And just in my child brain, I just knew that like my mom had curly hair, and I was so stressed out, dude, because I thought some dude was just sitting there just beating the shit out of my mom. I was so bummed, dude.
Yo, what is wrong with you?
Dude, I just remember like just crying, dude. Like
so 2 years ago, you get taken to a wrestling event.
Yeah, dude. Dude, but it started out so stoked because like he came out from the back, dude, and started coming down the ramp, and I was like, yo, that's my mom, dude. And then he just started getting the shit beat out of him.
All right, well, first of all, if it was a local promotion and they had a ramp and a backstage area, like that's a hell of a local promotion.
First of all, there's no way that it was a ramp. It's a ramp in my head, but in real life, it was just the front door of the VFW hall.
It probably was your mom in the ring then. Just cleaning house, just fighting your Uncle Jerry, just getting after it.
Everybody's getting taken out, dude. It's a wrap. It's game over, dude.
Oh, man. Gigi just cleaning house. Is that why she's called Gigi on Facebook? Is that her wrestling name?
Yeah, that's it, dude.
For those of you that don't know, Bill's mother's name is Candace, but she goes by Gigi. So there you go. Like I said, special features of the wrestling DVD. That's where she got her start. Local promotion in Louisiana.
It wasn't even Louisiana, dude. It was probably like, I don't know, somewhere where they do local wrestling. First of all, Louisiana local wrestling, dude, is so sketchy that I'm not going to that. I'm not going to that.
Oh, that's sketchy. The local wrestling circuit is sketchy. Not the fact that your people get into the swamp and wrestle, I don't know, alligators.
Yeah, that's the local wrestling.
That is okay. That is local wrestling. Okay, I got it.
Swamp People's like Monday Night Raw, dude. Oh man, dude.
Off to a hell of a start.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of fighting, speaking of people beating the shit out of each other, in other sporting news, you catch that bench brawl between the Cincinnati Reds and the Pirates the other night?
Dude, first of all, the fact that those things still happen in professional sports makes me happy to begin with. I mean, obviously NHL, people are going to fight. But bench clearing baseball brawls are one of the greatest things on the planet. And the
First
fact,
of all, bench clearing baseball brawls. Now it's a podcast.
Triple B's, dog. Yeah.
That's awesome. You're coining that. If you're not, I am.
Dude, you just cruise into the park that morning, dude, and you're just I'm getting a triple B today.
Yes, it's gonna happen. If I go out to that mound and they test me,
that's it.
That's it.
No more.
And they did.
I'm not gonna stand for it.
No.
And not only did they, but I'm gonna butcher this. What is it? Yasiel Puig? Is that how you say his name?
Probably.
He had literally just got traded like 15 minutes before. Which, I mean, is whatever. I go back and forth every season, you know, with it. It's kind of a cool thing about baseball, and it's kind of a not cool thing about baseball. I do appreciate, and most of the time I think it is when players are kind of professional and really respectful about it. You know, it happened. They get the news. It happens. They kind of do their thing. Don't make a big scene. But the fact that you no longer play for that team technically, and then still run out there and just throw down with the boys is one of the greatest things ever.
Oh yeah, no, I'll give you that. I love that. And you brought up hockey too, with the fact that might not even be a thing for much longer. That I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on it because you know you get the you get both sides of it. You think about, all right, well, the long-term effects of some goon enforcer type going out there throwing hands to try and get one over on the other team, you know, and get that motivation back for his squad. Like that's awesome, and it's a huge part in protecting, you know, the star players out there, you know, because obviously there's going to be guys like that on the other team headhunting and doing what they do, you know, especially in the 80s and 90s when I was starting to really, you know, become cognizant of the game and falling in love with it like I did. It was insane. I mean, not to mention, you know, the Philadelphia Flyers of the 70s, you know, just basically that's where Slapshot the movie came from.
Yeah.
It just that type of play. But remember stories about Gretzky going out there, you know, whether it was for, you know, the Rangers, whether it was for the Kings, the Oilers, he always had at least that one guy on the team. Yep. In LA it was Marty McSorley. That dude would just get out there and watch his back. And I think that's awesome. I thought that was awesome. I think that's awesome. I still think it's great in today's game for my team, Chicago Blackhawks. We've had quite a few. Arguably, actually, not in my opinion, it's not arguable at all. But Bob Probert, the best enforcer that the game has ever seen, made a living off of just cleaning dudes' clocks like it was nothing.
Yeah.
But I say that to say the fact that now they're like, oh no, it's too much. You know, like I said, there's that other side where it's these guys are getting brain damaged. You know, these guys are. But at the same time, not a lot of people are forcing these guys to do that. They're giving them that avenue to come into the game and be that person, but nobody's making you be that person. But I do follow guys on Instagram like Dan Carcillo, nicknamed Car Bomb, played for Flyers, Hawks. He played for like one or two other teams. But he's a huge advocate for stuff like that because the brain damage and the CT and stuff like that like a lot of quarterbacks get from the NFL, stuff like that. He's just a big, you know, he's just a big proponent of it's not good for the game. People think it's, bleed for your team, and, it's a tough guy sport and this and this and that. But like, so many guys are just being left out in the cold to just fend for themselves after the game's done for them. They got like all this brain trauma and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think there's something to be said about, if you know what you're getting into and you yourself are willing to take that risk, I think it should roll. I mean, the studies are out. You can do your own due diligence, your own homework, but I don't think it should necessarily just be taken out of the game. I think I don't necessarily think it makes or breaks it, but I definitely think it does add a certain, I don't know, to me, it's the greatest team sport. I think hockey is by far and away the best team sport out there. It's I don't know. And I think some of it does have to do with that. I think some of it does have to do with that, that brotherhood and that I got your back. And not saying that it doesn't happen in any other sports, just brought it up. Obviously the baseball bench clearing fight, but it, I don't know. I think in hockey it's just different. I think it's more of a, well, all the big four are team sports, but I think you just really see it in hockey more. Yeah. I think it's definitely way more of like a me with football, basketball, baseball, and it's just not really that way in hockey. Mm-hmm. You might have your onesie twosies, but not every dude is holding out and making super teams and just crazy shit like that. But anyways, getting a little bit off topic. I didn't even really understand it. I didn't understand the fight. I didn't really know where it came from. I tuned in. I saw a dude was talking to, saw the pitcher was Garrison or Garris or whatever his last name was, pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds. So I'm talking to his coach, and then I guess from what I understood, some dudes were talking shit from the Pittsburgh dugout, and he just was like, all right.
That's it.
And he had heard something, like your mama joke gone wrong or something. I don't know. But
that's mom getting beat up at local wrestling, dude.
Yeah, that's what it was. Local Cincinnati wrestling. Saw it happen. It was like, I saw you last week at the Holiday Inn Convention Center, man. And then just ran up, gave that dude the old right there, Fred, and
call it a day.
That was it.
Dude, it's funny too. You said you got off track, but I mean, it's a good point. You brought up football and stuff like that. And I think that with all the talks kind of about, the CT and all that stuff, football to me is like way gnarlier. And I love football. I love watching football, preferably college football. But I mean, I feel like if you're going to talk about fighting out of hockey, I think you need to take way gnarlier steps in the game of football, because really, if you think about it, a hockey fight you're not going to, first of all, in a hockey fight, for the most part, I feel like nobody's just going to skate up to you and just smoke you. I feel like it's a fairly agreed upon thing. It's a gentlemanly way to go about it. I feel like it's usually discussed and stuff like that. Whereas in football, you got all this stuff on, it's pretty cumbersome. And then next thing you know, you get blindsided and kind of hit and stuff like that. And the crazier thing too is to make it to the show in football. I mean, you're doing that from as soon as you can walk, pretty much. You're carrying a ball, and then you see these guys like that Last Chance You show on Netflix. I don't know if you've watched that, but that is, that's just incredible television, dude. I'll get to that in a second. But I mean, yeah, these guys are coming up, and they're kids, and they're playing ball their whole life, and then they get to college, and I mean, they're playing football. In college, you're playing football on arguably maybe even better than a professional level, and you're not getting paid for it. And you're really just out there making moves so that eventually you can get paid for it and you can make it to the show. And in the meantime, I mean, you're just absolutely destroying yourself. And I think that's something which I know it's already getting talked about. But like I said, I think before you kind of make a decision about whether or not to allow people to drop the gloves in hockey, I think you need to talk about maybe making some larger decisions in the game of football, I think, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and I think in hockey, I'm not saying it's the most perfect of sports. I mean, you still have headshots. You still got dudes leaving their skates, leaving the ice, or their skates leaving the ice, rather, I guess I should say. And that's an illegal hit. Anytime you come up off the ice, that's, especially if it's a drill to the head, or you drop that shoulder or whatever the case might be. It definitely, that headhunting stuff has been looked at. It's been talked about. They've been trying to do a better job of that, and I think that's great because I definitely don't think there's room for that. You got an open ice, play on the puck, and you drop somebody. I think that's perfectly fine. But you're dropping a shoulder into somebody's head, or you're waiting until their back is completely turned and they're right up against the glass, and you come up behind this cat and board them. Yeah, I think that's cowardly. I think it's bullshit, and I don't think the game has any time for that.
Yeah.
But as far as like you brought up, a rather barbaric, gentlemanly type agreement where it's like, are we gonna scrap? Yeah, let's scrap. Face off. You're dropping gloves and getting it going. But I don't. I don't get it. It's funny that I think it was maybe a couple of years ago, I saw a study that was done that basketball was actually, between the big four, was the most dangerous or had the most injuries or something like that. It was very interesting to find that out. Definitely don't think it's anywhere near as far as the long-term effects after the game, which you hear a lot more of. Like I said, the quarterbacks from football, with football, baseball, I'm not really too sure. I can't really speak too much on that. I've never been like a huge baseball fan, as I wear a Chicago White Sox hat. But as far as like the big four sports, I would say it's definitely like number 4 on the list, followed by NFL football, because like you, I'm more into the college side of things. Go Irish.
You definitely need to watch. You need to watch Last Chance U, man. If you would, it's so good. Have you seen any trailers or anything like that about it?
No, I've never even heard of it until you just spoke about it.
So it's basically, it's junior college. All the school, they follow 2 schools. There's 4 seasons, but the first 2 seasons follow one school, and then the 3rd and 4th season follow a different school, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So they're junior colleges, and what it is guys that either are kind of eligible to play at the next level, like Division I ball, or did actually play Division I football and either got in trouble or couldn't make the grade or anything like that. And they pretty much kind of bounce back down to junior college to, I guess, maintain their eligibility status or something like that. So it's kind of fascinating because obviously they're junior colleges, so budgeting and stuff like that comes into play. But here these guys are coming from, Georgia, Alabama, in some states, or in some cases, LSU, your big teams, mostly SEC teams, and they're coming down to these junior colleges where most of the money getting pumped into that school goes directly to the football program. And it's just weird to think about that, to these people, or, these people that are going to go play, these kids that are going to go play, to them, that's it. They're going to go play at this school. They make a lot of money. The school makes a lot of money, but then there's also students at that school that are going to college, and that gets talked about a lot too. But in the 3rd and 4th season, man, there's this dude, Coach Jason Brown. He's an absolute madman. It's insane. He's like just a big old, just big white dude, got a big dog or pit bull or something like that. Grew up playing ball in Compton, like coached in Compton and all this stuff. And then they bring him over to this school. It's in like Kansas, something like that. And so here's this dude who, like, at the end of the day, he's got this pit bull or whatever it is on a leash all the time. He's always sipping some sort of like Hennessy or something, smoking big cigars, from Compton, big football coach, drives a Cadillac. In the middle of just Podunk, Kansas, coaching this football team full of dudes that could play D1 football.
Hell yeah.
Dude, and some of those blow-ups, I can't even begin to like kind of recreate them, but some of those blow-ups, man, it's just, and he just kind of goes on a savage run. I don't want to give it away too much, but he goes on this kind of savage run at one point and just starts cutting players and firing coaches and stuff like that, and just loses any shred or any ounce of kind of being civil for the cameras, and just calls this one kid over from the complete other end zone. So makes this kid pretty much jog 100 yards. This kid gets over to him and he's like, "Congratulations, you just been cut on national television." And that's it. It's the only reason he had him run all the way over there was to tell him.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, man. It's nuts. You got to check it out. It's really good. The first 2 seasons are kind of, I don't know, they're whatever for me. But the third and fourth season is definitely, it's pretty good. Actually, some of the guys that were in the first and second season, a lot of them declared for the draft. And I think a couple of them are actually going to play in the NFL this year. So that's pretty cool.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, maybe I'll check that out.
Yeah, man. So I guess other big things on the radar. The day after we recorded episode 1, I know we texted about it and called about it and stuff like that, but I went to the skate park for the first time in God knows how long. And it was very rewarding. And
Oh yeah. Oh shit. Billy back on the board.
yeah, man, it was sick. I kind of been, I was out in front just kind of skating and stuff like that. Yeah, I guess this park's like 10 minutes from the house. Nobody really knows it exists. It's been there for like, I think probably coming up on 8 years.
Nice.
And all the ledges, rails, and coping and stuff like that were almost untouched. I mean, they were waxed, but they were kind of that initial, they built a skate park. They got that kind of first little fresh coat of wax, and nothing's chipped or busted or anything like that. And I got there and I was skating street, the little street section, and kind of, I mean, not upset with myself because obviously I knew I wasn't going to get back in there and be some superstar or anything like that. But towards the end of the session, actually, there's 2 bowls. There's a big giant vert bowl that I couldn't even begin to fathom considering skating in. And there's a more mellow bowl. You kind of pick a line, cruise around, stuff like that. It's a little easier to slap the coping and everything. And yeah, I was on the way out, man. And there was like 4 or 5 kind of older dudes, I guess, probably, I don't know, early 40s maybe. And they had a, like the big DeWalt, like construction speaker radio things that you bring at like a work site.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
construction radio.
Yeah, they had one of those blasting, and it was, I mean, dude, like Megadeth, Iron Maiden, Slayer, all that stuff. And they had a big orange Gatorade water cooler just covered in skate stickers. And they were just filling up like their bottles, like water bottles or whatever, skating the bowl and stuff. And I kind of cruised over there and I was just watching them at first. And it's weird. It's funny that it's just weird. Like when you're a kid and you're skating and you go to this, you cruise up to the spot and there's like the, like, I don't know, 17, 18-year-old kids there. And you're like, whoa, these the older kids, they're super gnarly. And then like, here I am now, like mid-20s, and there's dudes in their 40s at the skate park. And I was like, yo, these dudes are gnarly, man. And I mean, they're all skating like older, like, Pal Peralta, Santa Cruz, Creature, stuff like that. They got big fat wheels on them, dude. Rails on the board and stuff like that. And they're all wearing knee pads and helmets and everything. Just super sick, man. So yeah, I cruised up there and I was just going to kind of watch them skate. I didn't want to get in their way or anything because I was never a big transition or pool or vert, however you want to word it, skater. I just didn't really have the resources for that. So yeah, I was just going to kind of watch him, man. And then at one point, one guy kind of came up out of the bowl and he was like, dude, you should take a line. And I was like, nah, man, I don't want to get in.
That dude offered you Coke?
Yeah, just straight at the skate park. Yeah, he's in his 40s, tatted up, just kind of came out and just pulled it out of this big container. And
it's aggressive, man. I knew it was going downhill once you mentioned the construction radio. I was like, these guys are bad news. Yeah.
No, first of all, anybody you see with I think you have to present at least a respectable amount of cocaine at the store before they let you purchase that speaker. It's a prereq. Looked it up. But no, so anyway, man. So yeah, man, so he pops up out of the bowl and he's like, dude, you should take a line, man. And I was like, nah, dude, I don't want to, like I said, I never really skated that much. And yeah, they kind of showed me the best line to take, I guess, for the first run. Kind of did that. And I ended up skating the bowl with him, just kind of swapping turns. No, not really speaking, but not in a rude way. Just kind of like we're all jamming off each other and stuff like that. There's really no need for us to speak. I probably skated with him for like an hour right there towards the end. And there was like the classic, you take a good line or do something cool. And there was the classic, slapping their boards on the deck or up against the coping and hooting and hollering and stuff like that. So it was really sick.
Yeah, dude. Fucking couple of attaboys.
Yeah, man. Yeah, super tight. A little bit of attaboys for the youngin' out there, especially because we're all coked up. So that was definitely.
Yeah, dude. Coked up dudes just snapping the back of your ass with the edge of their board. It's fucking sick, dude. That's just called brotherhood where I'm from,
Honestly, that's a Sunday right there.
That's it. Skateboard Sunday with the boys.
Skateboard Sunday with the boys. And then after that, dude, gonna go hop in a bench clear and baseball brawl.
Hell yeah. I don't know how you're able to say that so fast.
Either got real stressed out, but I made the decision to say it. And then when my mouth started saying it, I was like, Bill, you're going too far. You got to back out of this one.
Yeah, you're in now. You're in now. You got to do that line. You got to do that coke. You got to get that ass slap. And you got to say baseball bench corn balls.
Dude, I think you swapped some words around there, though, dude.
Maybe. Anyway, so these guys were tapping you on the ass with their skateboard after your run?
Yeah. And we're all shirtless. It was pretty. No, man, there was none of that.
Man, it's a very, I mean, good for you, man.
Yeah. It's just got weird peer pressure. No, man, yeah, they were being super chill. I got a little strawberry on the ankle.
Sick.
Still hurts. So it was definitely a reminder that I'm like kind of not what I once was, kind of took that spill, looked down at the ankle. There was that like little bit of panic that set in of like, oh, there's blood coming out of my body.
I'm going to let you know what I thought you meant. I thought you were continuing the joke. And when you said you had a little strawberry on your ankle, I thought that was like part of the homoerotic experience. You got like a anklet that had like a strawberry on it or something.
Because we're
so I just like pretended to get the joke and kept rolling with it, but then you were actually talking about getting fucked up.
Yeah, they
got you. We're on the same page now.
They let me in their cool kid skateboarding club, and you have to. Everybody wears anklets in the club.
I got ankleted in. Now you don't get your ass beat or anything like that. You just get a fucking anklet with fruit on it.
Strap that thing on your ankle, dude. Yeah, it's different fruit.
No, he's down. He's down.
Yeah, each of us got a different fruit.
Shortcake skate crew.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to kind of embody your personality.
No, for sure.
Yeah, they were explaining some stuff about that, I guess so.
I respect that.
Yeah,
it's good, man.
It is what it is.
I can't even remember the last time I was on. The last time I was on a board, actually, I was in Virginia in front of your house, and I attempted to do something super simple, probably just like a 180 or fakey shove it or I don't know, something. I just completely ate shit and happened to have my keys on my hip and attached to my belt loop, and I landed straight on those bad boys, broke that electronic remote right in half. And it was pretty bad. It was a pretty huge mark there on the hip. Looked like I had surgery just recently. And that was probably the last time I was on one. I thought about taking it to school the other day. Skate to the light rail station, and then when I get off the subway in New York, skate the rest of the way to school. But actually forgot about my board. Yeah, forgot about my board last week, but maybe this week. Yeah, it's been a while, man. I damn sure can't imagine myself, jumping back on and getting right back into a bowl or into a skate park or anything like that. So big ups to you.
Yeah,
bigger set on you than I do.
Dude, it's the funniest thing about that slam you took in front of the house. And as I'm about to say it, I realized that it's gonna make me just look like such an asshole, dude. But it was the first time, because obviously neither one of us had skated in a long time. It was the first time that I had seen someone slam, like in person, because it was the first time I skated with somebody, like since I guess probably, I don't know, 5-6 years.
Right.
So like, you just forget, like when you're skating all the time, you just kind of get used to like you slamming or like one of your buddies slamming or going down or something like that. And I guess you almost get like numb to it. But I mean, you went down hard, as I'm sure you know. And
yeah.
It just kind of rattled me for a second. I was like, oh, look at that. That's what happens when you.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, your boy. I mean, we were talking last week about Hawk and just people in general that are up there in age, dudes that are up there in 50s and late 40s and all that. Your boy cannot take a hit like he could at 17, 18,
yeah.
even 10 years ago, 22, 23, like, at 32, I'm gonna be going on 33. Like I took that and was like, when I was younger, probably could have rolled with it,
yeah.
rub some ice on it, clear it out, just get all that dirt and bullshit out of there, unless I was wearing like pants, I probably would have just left it. But since I was wearing shorts, it was just like super exposed. Probably could have kept it rolling if I would have been able to, have mobility in my leg. But I literally fell on my keys. I rolled out of it and was like, well, no, I'm done. grabbed up my board, grabbed up the remnants of my keys and the key rings, and just was like, man, I haven't felt pain like that in quite a while. It was like a direct hit. But I know what you're saying. It became like second nature back in the day, man. It's just like, oh yeah, dude. I mean, unless you really, really like,
you got to get worked. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you had to see something break or a head injury or, somebody getting wrecked on a handrail or something like that. But I mean, somebody just falling and hit, even though I was like, parallel with the ground and fell straight on my hip. It was pretty nasty. Like, still, like back in the day, that would have been like, pussy.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, it's quite bad,
Dude. So, what were you saying?
No, go ahead.
So I feel like we got to get this one out in the air. Just get out in front of it, tackle it, because it's going to come up at a later episode eventually. Just want to get there now. So for those of you that don't know, we are both, I would say, probably some of the biggest fans of the Misfits. And if you don't know who the Misfits are, you can hit that pause button, go look them up. You're going to want to look up the album Famous Monsters, American Psycho.
Okay, first of all, I'm not even going to let, no.
You're going to want to jump right to those. Honestly,
I usually am,
before that is not, you don't even need it.
I usually would be a gentleman and let you continue on with this blasphemy that you're spitting out. But no, it's just, first of all, Bill, most of the people listening are going to be above the age of 16 or whatever you are right now. So they're not going to want to hear that stuff. They're going to want to hear the good stuff. Right?
What is this?
And who is that?
Who is this? Honestly, almost whoever this guy is, he kind of based his whole thing almost kind of around Graves. He's kind of got that doo-woppy thing. I think he picked that up from Graves.
So where Bill, the Vulture, was getting to was that the Misfits have their share of vocalists, two in particular, that we go back and forth on. They, of course, have had in more recent years Jerry Only, the original bassist, step up and cover lead vocals up until they reunited with the great and only true vocalist of the Misfits, Glenn Danzig. There was this younger upstart, Mikhail Graves, that came in later on in the Misfits' career when they jump-started again in the late 90s, and made two records with them. Pretty decent, as Bill brought up, American Psycho, Famous Monsters, pretty decent stuff, but doesn't hold a fucking candle to Glenn Danzig and
all right, dude, look,
the OG Misfits.
And it's okay. So I know we've had this conversation before. It's just never been recorded, right? And I fully agree that Danzig is the Misfits, right? When I think of the Misfits,
conversation done.
So, well, okay, hear me out. So when I think of the Misfits and I hear them, right, in my head, I think of Danzig. However, if I was to visually think of the Misfits, it's the Famous Monsters cover, because I just feel like Graves, and I think honestly too, man, I mean, when I found the Misfits, right, obviously it was kind of one of those things, like I listened to them, and just like with a lot of other bands, you're kind of like, oh, I've never really listened to these guys, and then you start listening and you're like, oh, I've heard this, I've heard this and stuff. But I went down the Graves rabbit hole first. So that was my first kind of introduction to them, and then I just kind of grew to appreciate the Danzig stuff. But just listening to Graves and then seeing the music videos and stuff like that in my head where he's doing those little jazz hands and everything, and he's got that just whole skull painted on his face. Is just, it's sick. And yeah, now see, this is where it's going to sound really contradictory. My favorite Misfits song is Hybrid Moments, which for those of you that don't know is not a Graves era song.
Right. So I first heard Metallica on the radio.
The fact that it's a different band just means it's going to just be so good, dude.
I first listened to Metallica, right? First heard them. I was born in very early 1987. Some would say almost 1986. Not the point. So in 1992, I'm 5 years old, right? And right around that time was the explosion. Well, before that, I believe that album came out in 91, maybe. Black Album, right?
Mm.
It's huge. It's huge. Everybody was a Metallica fan. Didn't matter if they were before. Didn't matter if they didn't know who they were at all. Everybody was a Metallica fan. That's what really, really put them on the map. So that's what I heard. That's what I heard when I was a 5-year-old. And then they came out with Load, which a lot of people were moaning and groaning over. Some people liked it, some people didn't. They thought it was a natural progression from what Black Album was. But then there were those purists that barely even liked Black Album and were all about the first 3-4 albums.
Yeah.
So what I did was, 9, 10-year-old or so, went back and wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Where these purists were getting these strong feelings and these strong opinions of this is shit, because everything that I was listening to, everything that I was coming up in was like Black Album, Load, Reload, all the stuff that everybody says is like garbage.
Yeah.
Right? Metallica, I bring up Metallica because everybody knows Metallica and everybody pretty much gets that there's two different eras, maybe even more if you really, really want to dissect it that much. But there's definitely like the first 4 albums, thrash metal, Kings, Inventors, really, along with Slayer, Exodus, Testament, Anthrax, Megadeth. But there's that, and then there's what comes after that. But like I said, I went back, I did my research. My uncle actually got me Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master Puppets, and Justice for All at one time. Took me to the record shop, got me all 4 of them at once. First thing I put in, he was like, well, you got to start with the first record, Kill 'Em All, put it in. 18, now you got to remember, 17, 18-year-old James Hetfield sounds nothing like the King of Years on Black Album and everything that came after. So I put that on, and first song that comes on, Hit the Lights, and it opens up with Lars on the drums, a little bit of bass, guitar, and then shreds right into it. That nasty, legendary riff that is Hit the Lights, and James opens it up with a very adorable, high-pitched wow, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious, going from everything that I knew to then hear that and be like, that's the same guy? Crazy. Anyways, point I'm trying to make, obviously those first 4 records are insane. They're ridiculous. In my opinion, Master Puppets is the greatest metal album of all time, hands down. Don't care. It's perfect. It beats out Black Sabbath, beats out Paranoid. I think it's the best metal album of all time. But the point I'm trying to make is I heard Black Album first. Just because it's the first thing I heard doesn't make it superior in any way, shape, or form. It just makes it the first thing I heard. So just because Graves is the first vocalist you heard for the Misfits doesn't make him the best.
Well, no.
It makes him better than Jerry.
Yeah, bless his heart.
Which isn't saying much. Love that dude. Met him. No big deal. Not trying to brag. But yeah, I mean, he's good. But it's just not. It's just not the same. It's not. Glenn. Not only is Glenn a better vocalist, in my opinion, I think he's a better vocalist. He wrote those songs too. Music, lyrics, everything.
And see, I think too, it just brings right back. And I think maybe my brain's just wired different, or maybe it's kind of like I said, the Misfits era that I came into. I mean, think about how visually, I guess, like overwhelming the Misfits are, I guess is the best word to put it. Think about all the Fiend Skull t-shirts you see, the Ghost everywhere, everything like that. And
Well, it's definitely, at this point, it's super oversaturated.
yeah, and also I was going to say, think about all the people that wear those shirts and don't know either A, a single song, or B, that like they're a band to begin with, which is a whole nother episode of conversation. But yeah, I just feel like they're just as much, at least to me, a visual band as they are a music group, right? So when I think of them, I just naturally am going to tend to like visually just kind of think of things and stuff like that. And the image that's just so appealing to me, dude, is that Famous Monsters album cover where it's just so sick, man. They just look just the right amount of menacing, I guess.
I think if you take Graves out of that singular album cover picture and put Danzig up there, it'd be the same damn thing.
I don't know, dude, because Graves—he's got all that blood all over him and stuff.
There were times that Danzig had shit on his face too.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it. Like I said,
So you're a fan of. So what it is you're a fan of makeup, Bill. Bill is a fan, and it makes sense because his lovely wife, my sister, used to do her makeup tutorials right here. So I get it. I know what this is about now. You want to sell makeup.
Yes. I'm going to be 100% honest. As soon as this is done, I actually laid out a couple colors. I'm going to try to do the Graves thing. So, yeah.
Well, that's quite. I mean, for a Halloween show, that's awesome. I mean, it's going to be coming up soon. But you try and pull that shit in August or September.
Pre-Halloween, dude. What an asshole thing to do if I just show up just in a full Halloween costume in August. Just like, what's up, man? You ready to get this done? Or
You know what? I'll let it ride. I'll let it ride because what you're thinking that I'm going to do is pull the plug on it and cancel the recording.
You just make
I'm
me
going to make you go through that.
Sit there for an hour and a half, dude.
With that light that you have right there that I know is probably hot as shit.
It's all melting off my face, dude.
You're going to be looking like Sting after a fucking wrestling match with Ric Flair.
Oh, man. But yeah, dude, like I said, I know, I understand that Danzig is the Misfits, right? I appreciate that older stuff, but when I think of the Misfits, that's the era that I think of, dude.
When I think of being wrong, I basically just see this floating mustache.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, that's Bill. That's fucking.
There he is. He's wrong.
That's all that. It's just wrong.
There he is being wrong. There he goes.
I close my eyes and I think of the word wrong.
Just stupid wrong Bill.
Yeah, I just think of this annoying, haphazard mustache. Just
Side
Graves.
Dig up our bones.
Graves.
Saturday night. Scream.
We're hunting humans.
Fiend Club. We are the Fiend Club.
You're fucking worst. You're the fucking worst.
Okay, so sidetrack to that of something that I think will make you not hate me. This morning on the way into work, so I drive an hour, right? So I usually kind of split it up. I'll do like a strong 15, maybe 30 minutes of like podcasting, listening to a podcast. I'm not just like recording by myself in the car like a weirdo.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just mumbling. And then I switch over probably like the halfway point and I just listen to music. And it just depends on how the morning's going. Usually, I guess just because I am driving, I just kind of want to listen to something fast and just kind of get me fired up to go like kick the day's ass, I guess. But this morning, I listened to a little bit of Motorhead first, just kind of went on Spotify, Motorhead, hit shuffle.
Absolutely.
Put down to that and then switched over to, I was listening to the Misfits for a little bit, but I was listening to the Jerry Misfits. So like Devil's Rain and stuff like that. And I noticed, and maybe it's just like I guess Motorhead is kind of the foundation for a lot of things. Maybe it's if your front man is also the bass player thing, but there's a lot of like structural similarities between Motorhead and Jerry era Misfits. Just the way the songs are, if you go back and listen, like now they've had this conversation, it's almost, you could almost swap them. Obviously nobody's ever going to have Lemmy's voice. But but you could just swap lyrics if that makes sense, or like just put Lemmy in the Misfits song or put Jerry in the Motorhead song, and it would still, both of them would work, is what I'm saying. So I thought that was like a cool little me being a detective thing this morning.
That's interesting. I think I've heard, speaking again of, it's like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but Metallica. Metallica obviously are huge Motorhead fanatics, and that's that's a huge influence on them. And I've heard James say before in interviews, James Hetfield, rhythm guitarist, vocalist of Metallica, that Lemmy is he just completely ripped him off. He ripped off his vocal stylings.
Yeah.
He tried to, in the 90s, you can obviously see too, the black jeans, leather jacket,
Yep.
the hair, the facial, the sideburns, it kind of like a
face thing.
Yeah, they dressing like a freaking pretty much space cowboy.
Yeah.
That joined a biker gang, I guess. I don't even know how you fucking describe Lemmy. Lemmy was his own fucking thing. But Hetfield is completely admitted to copying that very style, but more specific to what you were talking about, saying that he modeled like just where he would come in on songs, how he would break up the verses and chorus and stuff like that. He's always said that he basically stripped that away straight from Lemmy. And Lemmy's always been good with that. He's just a great songwriter. A lot of people don't know this, but he is actually a huge songwriter outside of Motorhead. Like he wrote a bunch for Ozzy. Like "Mama, I'm Coming Home" is written by Lemmy.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's all Lemmy. He was like, trying to Ozzy. I guess the story goes something like he had mentioned that he was trying to write this song. He was like having trouble with it. And it's kind of like this, and he let him know that it was for Sharon, it was for his wife who was missing her, and Lemmy basically just took the song, wrote the lyrics, sent them back, and that was it.
That's sick. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is funny because Sharon will go on in interviews and be like, "Oh, Ozzy wrote that song for me, and this and this and that," and then Ozzy's like, "Yeah, no, Lemmy wrote that song for me to give to her, basically."
Yeah. First of all, dude, it doesn't matter what I feel like Ozzy's gonna give you the truth. No matter what. If it comes from the mouth of Ozzy Osbourne, it is law, actually.
And Lemmy, rest in peace. That dude, I never, unfortunately, never got to like meet the dude, even at like a fan meet and greet or anything like that. And obviously didn't know him fucking personally, but you could just tell. There's certain people I think you could just tell were like really, really good, genuine people. And that dude wouldn't fucking. That dude would not just sit there and just tell some bullshit ass fucking line of, whatever, like of all the other things that there are to say and like lie about it and whatever. So I always thought that was pretty cool that he, so many people were like taking his style and like the way he wrote and stuff like that. But he was also like writing for all these people. And like, I never knew that till like, I think I just found that out a couple of years ago. That was one of my favorite songs for the longest time. And I was just like, oh man, it's such a good song. Fucking da 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 da, it's so well written, and that's like the perfect song when you're missing your girl, whether you're out, me and you both being in the military, obviously deployment, we know being away for a long time sucks ass. Not necessarily being a touring band or anything, but like he embodied that perfectly. I think those words were perfect. But that is interesting. I've never heard that. Comparison of Jerry and Lemmy. I'll have to do that now. I'll have to go and check that out.
It's sick, man. Well, I mean, I just heard the tiny human that lives with me.
My niece.
Yeah, super, super not upset. But I think I don't know, what is it? You think like pushing an hour? I didn't really see what time it was.
Couldn't tell you, man. That's fine. I'm sure the audience will understand that you got to take care of the sweetest girl in the world.
Well, to you. But no, I'm just kidding, man. I think we covered some pretty strong ground again, kind of bounced around. That was super fun, man. Super good. We had a lot of laughs. I feel like we kind of, not that like nervous, because obviously I'm just talking to you, but yeah, I felt like, and maybe, for those of you listening, you can kind of attest to this. It felt like there was a little bit of, we kind of talked about it after, kind of that little nervous jitter in the first one. I think we kind of snuffed that out in this episode. If you think that, or think we're wrong, or think we're stupid, or whatever, man, just let us know, dude.
Yeah, no, I absolutely had a good time. I think last time, it wasn't. I think we're two grown adults. I don't think it's much in the way of nervous jitters, but I think for those of you that don't know, yes, we had been talking about doing the podcast. We had been planning it for months and wanting to do something like this and da 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 da. But the actual act of recording that episode was about 20 minutes of planning, no notes, didn't know what we were going to talk about, and just ran with it. So if you liked it, that's awesome. Super, super appreciative. I know it's gotten a bunch of views on YouTube already. That's super cool. Don't know if it's like eclipsed 100 views or whatever, but honestly, even 10, 11, 12 views, that's awesome to see a couple people going up there, subscribing even to the channel before even seeing past the first episode. Very, very thankful. Appreciate you guys. We're definitely going to keep coming up with ideas, keep coming up with these episodes. Obviously, by the next episode, we'll be on more legitimate podcasting platforms. Going to be getting better equipment. So these first couple ones are just trying to test the water, seeing how you guys react, how we react, and so far so good. I think it's been a really good time, and this is a little bit more of what you can expect from future episodes. Just kind of bouncing around, talking about it all: punk rock, wrestling, skateboarding, pop culture. We got it all, man. I mean, it's not the easiest thing to do being in New Jersey and then you yourself being in Virginia, but we're making it work. We're making it happen, and we'd love to hear back from you guys. So anything you're willing to share or talk about, let us know, whether it's in the comments on YouTube or we got an Instagram page that Bill started up as well, Slim and Vulture. Go check it out. Other than that, we will see you next week.
Yep. Yeah, man. Just like you said, man, thanks for listening. Slim and the Vulture, episode 2. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Later, guys.